What the heck is biological filtration and what does that mean? Well, if you've ever wondered what that was or wanted a little bit more information, follow along and I'll talk about that. Hello, everyone. I am Leslie with MA Fish Gardens, and I wanted to do different videos that kind of break up the different filtration options that you have for your tank. Make it a little bit more manageable in terms of information and not so overwhelming. So I'm going to talk about the different types of filtration. There's biologic, mechanical, and chemical. And in this video, I'm going to talk about biologic filtration. So you might have heard people talk about biologic filtration. What does that actually mean? Basically, the biologic filtration is referring to the beneficial bacteria and nitrifying bacteria in your tank that is processing the waste products in your tank. I have a separate video that talks about the nitrogen cycle and talks a little bit about that nitrifying bacteria. So if you're interested, I will link that video below. So when it comes to biologic filtration, what you're really looking at is the different filtration methods or surfaces that you have in your tank that will allow bacteria to grow and support that bacteria. This video will talk just about the biologic filtration, but it does tie into somewhat with mechanical filtration. So you'll hear a lot of times the two will go together. So what are your options in terms of biologic filtration? Basically, you want things that will harbor the most amount of bacteria in the least amount of space. You will have bacteria that grows inside the surface, any surface of your tank, your plants, your filters, sponges, rigs, logs, bioballs. So any of those that kind of maximize the amount of surface area that the bacteria can grow on is probably your better options. One major helpful thing or kind of piece of advice that was given to me that I always pass on to others is when you look at biologic filtration, probably the number one thing that we're doing wrong is using cartridges that we change every week, every 2 weeks, every month, however long it is you change or use your cartridges. If you have filters or hang-on back filters, internal filters, you have a cartridge in the tank. And then when it comes time to do your maintenance, you toss that filter. Well, then you're tossing beneficial bacteria potentially that's been growing on there, especially if you're more so throwing it out every month. So one thing that I would recommend is that if you have any of those filters, change the media or the cartridges to something like a sponge filter. You could put rings in there, you could put balls in there, the bio balls, something where you can have and foster growth of that bacteria. And so what would happen is if you're throwing that filter media out every month, you're throwing away that bacteria, which then also limits and decreases your ability to do filtration. Sponge pads last a very long time, and really you only need to rinse them under some water, rinse in tank water, and you're good to go. And years down the line, you replace them. When you look at sponge filters, you will see either fine, medium, coarse, medium, or you'll see numbers like 15, 20, 30, 40, something like that. Basically, what that means is 40 ppi, so pores per square inch. So a low density is a coarse sponge filter, and a high density will be a fine. The smaller the number, the more coarse it is because you have less pores per square inch. So a 15 would be a super coarse because it only has 15 pores per square inch versus a 40 is more of a fine. It has a lot more pores per square inch. Now, depending on the type of filter you have, some people will do a combination of a coarse to medium, medium to fine. It just all depends on kind of what your fish is, what type of filtration you have. You can always put sponges inside your pumps. If you have a hang-on back, you could even put a coarse sponge filter on your intakes, so then you're filtering out any of the kind of coarse debris or large debris. Also, you help protect any baby fish from being sucked up into your filter, but then you're also giving more surface area for bacteria to grow.
So here you can see my hang-on back filter on my 125. Starting from the back, you see a more of a medium sponge filter, then you see the media holder, then you see the bio wheels. The water will come up through the intake from the aquarium, go through that tube you see in the middle, go through the sponge, the media, and then back into the tank. So I have a coarse sponge or a pre-sponge filter on my intake. So it goes through the coarse sponge first, then goes through the medium, goes through some biological filtration, then is back into the tank. So here is my pre-intake sponge filter. It is a coarse sponge that will collect some of those coarse debris. And here is a picture of it's kind of hard to see, but the top of the sponge filter that goes over your intake pipe. Next, the water will go through this sponge. You see it's more of a medium to fine sponge. Now, in terms of biologic filtration, a lot of times, and they say that the finer sponge pads are the ones that have more biologic filtration because there is more surface area. You still get some with the coarse, but not quite as much as that medium or fine. So that's why it's nice to combine multiple size filters, or rather, multiple size filter pads. Now here you see my ceramic rings inside of my media holder. This is nice to keep it in the holder because when it's time to do my maintenance, I can just dunk the whole plastic container into used tank water to clean it off. Here I wanted to kind of give you a visual difference of what the different size PPI looks like and what does it mean. On the left-hand side, you see more of that medium to fine filter pad. And on the right, you see more of the coarse. So the left, I believe, is about a 30 PPI versus the one on the right is a 20 PPI. So this is similar to the porous or the pores per square inch for an intake. So my water will first go through a sponge pad of this size, consistency, density, and then we'll go in through the second stage where it's going through that medium sponge pad to get more filtration and also add more of that biologic filtration.
Other options in terms of porous things to help grow the bacteria, provide surface for the bacteria, are ceramic rings, ceramic logs, porous rock, or even live rock, which is rock that has bacteria in it. Those types of things have tons of nooks and crannies where the bacteria can grow. And generally, they are it is a small object that has a large surface area. So it's almost like you're getting more bang for your buck. You need less rock to get more space and therefore more bacteria to grow.
Here you can see my ceramic logs and the ceramic rings.
Bio balls have been around for a while, but they're not as popular as now the ceramic ring, ceramic ball. So I'm not really going to talk about those so much, but it's certainly an area, something that you could use. The problem is bio balls can be difficult to clean. Detritus clogs it up. You have to rinse it out. Kind of the same with the ceramic rings and balls, but it doesn't seem to be as bad or as difficult maybe to clean as the bio balls. So another different type of media is K1, K2, K3. K1 generally is used for the aquariums. You might have K2, K3 that are used more in large tanks, ponds, or even you'll see sewer, water sewer system, water filtration systems. Basically, it's just changing the size. K1 is a little bit smaller. The idea is with this media that you have lots of little nooks and crannies that bacteria would be able to grow on. And you'll see with the K1 especially that you can get a fluidized system, which is probably one of the more efficient systems because it allows for so many surfaces for the bacteria to grow, but also in the tumbling of the media knocks off old or dying bacteria so that you can have room for more bacteria and bacteria that's actually participating in that filtration. Now, also with the biologic filter, you will see biofilm. And that is basically a collection of bacteria, microorganisms, maybe even some fungus that all helps to process waste and those ammonium nitrates in your tank. Now, people they want to overclean, they want to make sure it looks spotless, and so you're wiping off that film. Usually, a lot of times you'll see it on your filter, especially if you have a hang-on back, kind of where the water comes out of the pump and goes back into the tank. Resist the urge to remove that. That is helping to clean your tank. Now, all of these methods, the ceramic rings, the bio balls, the rocks, the ceramic rings can all be used on any and all types of tanks. So whether it's freshwater, brackish water, saltwater, ponds, etc. So you see there are many options in terms of what you can use for your filtration, just depending on what type of mechanical filtration you have or how else are you filtering your tank. Here's a link below for mechanical filtration, which goes so close in hand with bacterial filtration and kind of the pros and cons of each of them. So in summary, biologic filtration is more about the bacteria and providing spaces for that bacteria to flourish and grow. Your method of choice or media of choice may evolve or change over time depending on what type of tanks you have, where are you in your fish keeping journey, even how old your tank is. As you start changing what fish are in there, you might change what bacteria, what media you use to harbor that bacteria. Thank you for joining in and learning about biologic filtration. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment or let me know if there's anything that you would like to see or learn about next, or what you would prefer to learn about, or what would be more helpful in terms of filtration. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you on the next video.